Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Troublingly Lurid Diagrams of Recklessness. That's right, it's the TLDR podcast.
Woo!
Wow, yeah. We've been busy. I'm Jeff. This is Daniel. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Was that really loud? I hope I didn't blow any eardrums there.
I'll find it in my heart to forgive you.
Excellent. Well, I tell you, I am a little bit doped up on cough medicine, so if I'm a little out of it, you can just chalk that right up to that.
By the way, people, he did not tell me this beforehand. Now that's all the responsibilities on me suddenly. So
right.
Today we're talking about Warcraft. Everything to do with Warcraft Classic. World of Warcraft specifically, I guess. I don't want to get anyone confused about Warcraft Reforged coming out soon here. But I'm excited for that too, especially considering the raging success of Classic.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that's unfamiliar, Warcraft Reforged is the remake, the remaster of Warcraft 3, and not to be confused with World of Warcraft or World of Warcraft Classic.
Right. So, now before we get into our personal experience with World of Warcraft Classic, I'm going to just henceforth refer to it specifically as just Classic because World of Warcraft is a mouthful. And everyone knows what we're going to be referring to anyway. But I do have a couple little tiny news segments that are WoW Classic themed.
Woo!
The first is... Daniel, I don't know how much you've been able to play. We'll get to that in a bit. But over the weekend, Warcraft got pretty savagely DDoSed. What DDoSing is it's this, I forget what it stands for, but it's when one person takes advantage of a network, uses bots to basically, I think it's like overtax the network or maybe block IPs, or it's a denial of service of some sort. And basically, somebody did that. It happens to a whole bunch of companies all over the place, but it happened specifically to World of Warcraft Classic on the weekend, and it happened solely because of one streamer. That streamer's name is Asmongold. He's easily the biggest Twitch streamer at the moment, and I don't mean Twitch streamer by views, I mean by subscriber count. He has like 250,000 subscribers or something insane.
Holy Hannah, I didn't realize he was that big.
Actually, as I said that, I thought to myself, maybe it's 25,000. But it's still like a huge... He's got a lot of people like cashing in on his nonsense.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so it occurred. He's on the Fairlina realm, I believe it's called. And basically, what happened was this person with the Twitter handle of @UKDrillas on the 7th tweeted that he was going to attack every single US PvP WoW server. He didn't. He attacked every server because Daniel and I are not on a PvP realm, and we were shut down very swiftly. We didn't go offline, but it caused such a huge amount of lag from people getting kicked and trying to get back in and stuff that it disconnected us as well. Realms like Fairlina that Asmon are on were totally put offline, which is ironic because on the 7th, Asmongold was level 59.
Oh.
So the reason I mentioned that they were specifically targeting him is because it only makes sense. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding Asmongold as he's been leveling up since Classic released. There's been his diehard fans who just love him to death and who just want to see him succeed and send him all their gold and items that they find, and so he's basically unimaginably rich now. But and I don't mean like gold rich. I think he's actually been kind of middling when it comes to accepting gold from players, but there's just like his mailbox is jam packed with items people keep sending him, like epics and rares that they just find while they level up and stuff. And so there's that group of fans, but then there's the other group of used to be fans who loved him before Classic came out because he made all these promises that he was going to do things like to alter his level up experience when he was going through Classic, such as I'm not going to accept items from players or gold or anything like that. And then sure enough, when he reached level 40, just like every other WoW player, he wanted his mount, so he got people to give him gold. I don't fault him for that. If I had a huge audience of thousands who just wanted to see me do awesome, I might cash in on that. Especially in a streaming situation. If you're a celebrity or somebody with actual power, it's of course super corrupt. But in his situation, I'm like, well, just let him have his fun, I say.
Yeah, but I mean, the flip side of that is you and I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about you wanting to level to 60 the first time without mods. So I kind of view that as the same thing. You have the option to get mods to make your game easier, or modify it in some way, and you're choosing not to. So, I mean, how is one different from the other?
Right. I get that it can be seen as a crumbling of integrity for Asmongold because his promise to his fans was not kept. But at the same time, you must have a pretty fragile faith in this guy if you're if you now totally hate him because he broke one promise kind of thing.
Yeah, welcome to the internet where everybody hyperbolizes everything.
Yeah. So basically, moving away from Asmongold, we'll return to him in a second. The DDoS attacks affected almost every player, from what I was hearing. My brother and his friends started on the only RP realm, which is Bloodsail Buccaneers. They were getting kicked off. I have a few friends on a few other different realms some are PvP realms, some are normal realms, and everyone was getting the same treatment. So it was basically a sweeping attack on Classic itself. It didn't last super long. It probably on Saturday it lasted like 3 hours max of people disconnecting and stuff. And then on Sunday it happened again, but it was less severe. I did experience the lag. I got kicked once or twice, but it wasn't. It was like a half hour of just middling annoyance.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not sure if we were gonna if we were gonna cover what we did in gaming this week, but I did not end up playing anything on Saturday, so I missed this completely. I'm one of the very lucky ones.
Right.
Or Sunday.
Oh well, boo-hoo. But no, the guy who was tweeting all of this, UK Drillas, he got banned from Twitter. But before he got banned, he was basically saying, okay, I'm going to hit this realm now, and sure enough, that realm would go down. Okay, I'm going to hit this realm now, oh, sure enough, that realm went down. And so basically, it was unanimous proof that he was the culprit, and he was
right.
Totally bragging about the entire thing. So basically, all that says to me is, like, how much money does Blizzard lose when their players can't lose or play for 3 hours? It's probably still like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I wonder.
So it's interesting to me that he might get legal action against him because he's an idiot. He knows how to DDoS people, but he's too stupid to know not to brag.
Well, yeah.
Or not know.
I mean, I think it'd be worse if there were microtransactions in the game. Like World of Warcraft Classic has no opportunity for you to spend money, like real money, in the game. There's your subscription fee, and that's it.
Right.
So I don't know how much WoW could be losing because of that attack specifically, outside of maybe some people that are giving up on the game just because of that. And if they're giving up on the game just because of that, they probably weren't in it for the long haul anyway. So I don't know that Blizzard has lost much. but I mean, it's still, I mean, a denial of service. That they're offering a service, they need to be on top of that, right? And I agree completely.
I would say that, what is it? It's like $20 a month for Canada. That's $10. I lost the math. I can't do math.
It's right now it's sitting at about 75 cents American to $1 Canadian. So, $20 Canadian is about, well, I mean, it's 15. I think it's 15 US dollars a month.
But even if,
which makes our 20 Canadian.
All I'm saying is, even if it was like 50 cents a day to play World of Warcraft, that's 50 cents from how many million players? We don't know the numbers, but that's a hefty sum per day.
But do you think this would have caused anybody to unsub because of that?
Oh, I'm sure there's so many fickle players out there that could have quit, but I wouldn't say it's. I'm not saying it's a loss of money because of people quitting the game. I'm saying it's a loss of money because players are being denied playing, and
I see what you're saying.
That affects stock and stuff like that. Everything.
Yeah, you're saying it's a value. It's a lost value, not necessarily lost dollars, but lost value.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm on board.
So he got banned from Twitter, and I haven't heard anything about it since then. But I'm sure that Blizzard's legal team probably contacted him rather angrily or whatever. And then moving on to Asmongold. I've been occasionally tuning in to his whole leveling process. I tuned in right away when he was level like 3 or 4 because, well, no, he was higher than that. He was probably like level 10 or 15 when I first started watching him, because I didn't start playing until the evening on the Monday that it released, and the game came out in the afternoon. Anyway, so I watched him go through probably 5 levels, and it was annoying for me to watch him play because I'm not the type of person, like he had a huge crowd of all of his fans just following him everywhere, trying to trade with him and stuff, and he had to like I'm not sure if you got add-ons or if there's actually an option in Classic that allows you to deny trades and stuff, but basically he was just bombarded. But one big thing with Asmongold that just annoys me, I'm not trying to create this huge hate fest on Asmongold, but one thing that really annoys me about him is he because everyone loves him so much in the World of Warcraft community, he has like a god complex, and he thinks he's never wrong. He thinks he's like the best at everything, and it's just it really annoys me to listen to that nonsense.
I agree with you. I didn't really spend enough time watching Asmongold because honestly I don't. I've watched a few of his videos on Twitch and. A few of his videos on YouTube, and I've watched him for maybe a couple of hours total on Twitch, and I don't find him really that engaging, but it's pretty obvious that that you and I are kind of in the minority there.
Well, he everything he says, his diehard fans lap up, even though some of the things he was saying didn't make a lot of sense. Like he was like, "Okay, guys, let's go to Scarlet Monastery because that's the fastest way to level." So they went to Scarlet Monastery into Armory, I want to say, put it on into a raid, and 10 of them raided Scarlet Monastery for like 12 hours one day and leveled up 10 times. Or it wasn't 10 times total. In the one day, it was like 6 times they leveled up. But in that level range, there's way faster ways of leveling up. And so his whole thing of 1 to 60 was, I want to level up as quickly as possible. He played practically constantly in this journey, and he convinced, well, he didn't do much convincing, but he basically told all of his fans this is the fastest way to do it, and then they all just jumped on the hype train of doing that. Nobody suggested a better way. Nobody said, hey, actually this is better, Asmon, hey, come on. And so his stream basically became supremely boring for like 12 hours because he was doing the same thing over and over again.
He was just grinding mobs in Scarlet Monastery.
Yes. It's not even the fastest way to do it. And he was just, I was like, I mean, I get it that his fans are sticking around, but the guy has made bank this last 2 weeks. And it's just, it's brutal to me that somebody who commits to 12 hours of Scarlet Monastery can still make such insane bank. And at the same time, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's a jealousy factor that, but I wouldn't even be able to do 12 hours of Scarlet Monastery because it's that boring.
Yeah.
This is circular logic. I'm destroying myself.
No worries.
But as he got closer to 60, he slowed down and he actually started to really enjoy himself, and you could tell. Like up until like 40, he was just like, oh, we gotta go do this, we gotta do that, we gotta do this. And then after that, every time I just like glanced at his channel, he was smiling and he was laughing and he was audibly and like visually like clearly enjoying himself, which he's played the game so much that's kind of that's a welcoming thing to me, even though I don't directly enjoy his content.
Yeah, I mean when you've played the same content literally hundreds of times, and if you can still enjoy it enough to be smiling and laughing on stream, and not only that, but if you're not having fun, you're not engaging your audience, like there's no way you're going to, like you say, make bank. People are just going to abandon you because it's just boring, right? So he obviously it's a feather in WoW Classic's cap that they are able to draw that much enjoyment out of a diehard who's been playing thousands of hours for how many years, 15 plus years, and they can still enjoy the starting experience.
Right.
Speaking of starting experience, how fast do you figure it took you to get to level 10?
I would say by myself, the first time, 4.5 hours. Yeah, something like that. Hey, I didn't actually do a slash blade to find out, but I was just curious. I'm expecting it somewhere around there, probably 5 hours for me to get to 10. I did play with our mutual friend Jeff, other Jeff, in the case of podcast listeners, and between me and him, it took about 3 hours to get to level 9. So.
Okay, that sounds about right. Because you guys had some synergy between your team, I suppose.
Yes, we had a paladin priest combo, and I'm, of course, we're pre-level 10, so we can't specialize. But the whole point of the team is tank healer kind of thing.
Right, gotcha. And for retail WoW, with all of the multipliers for getting your experience faster and faster, and how it's streamlined and stuff like that, you figure you can get to level 10 in about 15 minutes?
It's been a long time. I would say, pessimistically, a half hour.
A half hour. And that's probably a little on the slow end.
For me, for sure. Because I'm the kind of guy that I don't just make heirlooms, I enchant heirlooms. So my guys are super powered.
Right. I mean, if you're going to do it, might as well do it all the way.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, because here's the thing, like, so I'm sorry, I was about to just jump into my topic here. Did you have any other news that you wanted to cover before we took off?
No, we're good.
We're good. Right on. Okay, well, as I was saying, I had kind of these preconceptions for how things were going to go when I started playing WoW Classic. I expected that I was going to jump in and realize, oh my gosh, all these quality of life changes that they've been making over the years, they're all gone. They just all ripped them all away from me, and I'm going to, get in, I'm going to play for 2 hours, get to maybe level 10. How naive I was. I was thinking maybe I'll get to level 10 in 2 hours, and I was going to quit because this game is boring, it sucks, I die so often, and I don't know, what were you thinking was going to happen for yourself?
Well, I started playing on the day of. I was like 6 hours late to it because I didn't realize it was coming out the Monday. I thought it would release on the Tuesday. So I was like, well, that initial wave of like players is probably gone now. So I'll probably have a little bit of lenience, and I'll be able to take my time and have fun, read all the quests, all these different things. And I got into the game, and there was like 7,000 people around me, and I was like, oh, this is just life for everyone then. And I thought it would be horrible because with that many people around you, it's like it's extremely difficult to tag mobs. So I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm just gonna staff mobs because casting takes too long. I won't be able to tag anything because I started a mage first, and no, I even though it was a total cluster, if you know what I mean, it was awesome because right away I did the quest where you kill the wolves, and then I did the quest where you kill the neutral kobolds, and then after that,
Oh, you were in Elwyn Forest.
yeah, and then after that,
Yeah.
I instantly got invited into a group, and we just raided the mine, and it was just like we all like as soon as I got into the group, like a conversation exploded, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the experience I missed because of course in retail, conversations don't happen between random people. So yeah, I totally enjoyed myself immediately upon starting the game.
I wonder if that's kind of just the nostalgic factor of people who, they're 40 now, but they were playing when they were, 18 years old in college, and they, they just remember how WoW used to be, and so they're almost shoehorning their nostalgia into the game.
It's possible. Daniel, how high level did you get with your best character?
I think my warrior is level 12 right now.
Okay, so we'll touch on that.
13.
I want to touch on that later, the nostalgia factor. But I really want to talk about how our memories may have altered how we thought Classic would be.
Okay.
I know you've touched on that already a little bit, but I just want to talk about the generalities of my leveling experience.
Okay.
Now the thing is with of course we're going to be doing this constantly is comparing Classic to retail, and the thing with retail is when you have a full set of heirlooms, you're just like you're so hyper focused on replacing your bracers or your gloves or that non-heirloom piece on your character, or it's either that where you're hyper focused on getting the best gear even as a low level character, or it's the complete opposite and you don't care. You're so like buff already that you don't care what the non-heirloom pieces even are. In Classic, the levels last so long that gear rewards at any level really feel like rewards rather than temporary upgrades until the next piece. I mean, it's not. I wore a level 17 staff until level 41 because it was simply because there was nothing better. You could get staves that had like 10 stamina and 10 intellect and 4 spirit, and you're like, oh, that looks really good. But the staff gave me 10 spell power, and intellect doesn't give you spell power in Classic. It only gives you crit chance. Right.
Ah.
So I was like, oh, I don't care about crit. I don't care about my mana pool. I'm Frost. I'm pretty mana efficient. So I was like, I'm just going to stick with this staff that gives me 10 more spell power. And it just, it felt awesome to replace the staff, but I was also like, I'm sorry, Icicle Rod. You've been with me for so long. And I actually, I felt this, it wasn't emotional, but I felt this attachment to this staff that I shortly after disenchanted. But I was just like, you feel like you're proud of your weapon, even though it sucks. You're standing around. You're standing around these other level 30s and 40s, and you're like, yeah, look at me, because I was a slight tangent. I did Sulfurak with some people, and I was the only person in the group because I was a fresh 40. I didn't have enough money yet for my mount, and so I was the only person in the group without a mount. And so I was just, I have been having such a blast making jokes in parties. And so I was just constantly making fun of myself while I was, like, falling dreadfully behind all these people at the Red for the instance. But yeah, no, just everything, every piece of gear that I have. I got this Mage Quest reward at like level 20 that I was like, this looks amazing. And it didn't look amazing. It just looked better than what I had previous. Like if you compare it to a retail robe or dress of some kind, it probably looks like poop. But it was just like, it looked so much better than my previous piece, and it had good stats, and I was just like, this is awesome! And I actually felt bad when I got it replaced.
It's funny because I just started a priest, and so I'm in Shadow Glen, which is the very first starting area for the Night Elves, and I was wearing this white quality robe, it's a gray quality robe, and then I got and I was sitting there thinking, yeah, it's actually kind of nice artwork on this thing, and then I got another gray quality robe that was no positive stats other than armor, and it increased my armor by 2, and I was genuinely excited to get it, and I put it on, and I was just like, oh, this looks even better than the last one. And I have not had that feeling in retail probably since the very first characters I created back in 2004.
And what's really, really funny about that side of it is because transmogging doesn't exist, your character's going to look jank no matter what.
Everybody's character is going to look jank.
Yes, even my character looks kind of... I lucked out with some shoulder pieces that match my dress or my robe, but my robe's like a very faint green. My shoulders are like faint, like a pale green, and my shoulders are white, and then my hood is red, like a blood red, and it looks so bad compared to the rest of it. But the thing is because you're holding on to these pieces of gear so much longer, it creates an attachment that retail just can't seem to reproduce. And I wanted to briefly go through retail's attempts at creating, or rather recreating, this attachment. And that, of course, starts with Mists of Pandaria. Mists was the first expansion that had just a blanket legendary for everyone. It took a lot of work. It took basically the entire expansion to get the legendary, but every single person who got that legendary felt awesome. It had an awesome effect on it for tanks, healers, and DPS. It was a different effect for each, and it just felt super powerful. And then after Mists, it was Warlords of Draenor, and you got a ring. And it felt a little bit easier to get that ring up to legendary, because I put way less time into Warlords, and I still managed to get the legendary ring. But it was still sort of the same shtick, right? But once you got to, after Warlords is Legion, right?
I
think it's Legion.
Doesn't feel right.
No, it is, because Gul'dan is in both. So Legion, what ends up happening in Legion is you get a weapon, and it's suddenly 10 times more important, because you've had legendaries before, but this is an artifact, and it is so powerful that it has its own talent tree, and you're like, holy crap. And I feel like the cloak was my first legendary piece in current content, so I was just like, oh, this is awesome. So by the time I was like 6 levels ahead in the next expansion, I was like, I guess I have to get rid of it. But I did was bank it. I didn't destroy it or sell it, because I don't want to. But with the artifact weapons, it was just like, when they depowered those artifact weapons, they got rid of the talents, and it destroyed all of my progression in that entire expansion was deleted by Blizzard. For what reason? I don't know. They could have kept the weapons for the next expansion, but they didn't.
Yeah.
They just
No, actually, they did give a reason for that. They said that in one of their WoW Q&As, was it Ian Hazakostas or maybe one of the other chuckleheads that work over there? They said that having superpowered systems like that are relegated to a single expansion allows them to have a little bit more creativity and give a little bit more, I guess, insane power levels to your class, to your particular character. It's kind of like a like a breaking of the rules, because if you plot on a graph, a character's power level as they go up in levels, it would make kind of a parabola, right? You would start low and it would build slowly, but it would get a little bit faster the build until such point as they're gaining power way faster, exponentially faster than they were at the beginning. And Ian Hazakostas, I think that's who it was, says that and like relegating it to one expansion allows them to give the players those feel good moments, but they do have to take it away at the end, otherwise the power levels are just way too fast. They build way too strong too quickly. And as a brief aside, right after Mists was Warlords, not Legion.
But that's what I said. Warlords had the ring legendary.
Right. I thought you had said Legion. Okay, moving on.
But anyway, I just want to say that the Legion artifact weapons is it's a system that works, and instead of moving on with the system that works, they could have gotten rid of the weapons and replaced them with something else that has a talent tree or something like that. But they didn't. They downgraded to a crappy necklace. Now the necklace is kind of decent now in Battle for Azeroth, but it feels so much less.
I think they genuinely thought that was going to be the better option. I mean, I think they genuinely thought that they were improving and increasing on that system that was so great in Legion.
Well,
in Warlords.
Well, they should have talked to me.
No, not Warlords. It was Legion that they did the artifact weapons. My bad.
But yeah, it's this attachment in Classic to just random pieces of gear is something that I haven't felt for at least 10 years.
Yeah, it's true. They're impressive. Zul'Farrak especially. Like I remember Zul'Farrak, you can get two separate swords there, and you can combine them into one, and that's like the best sword that you'll get. Zul'Farrak, I think, is a level 40 dungeon.
Like 45.
And you don't. 40, and you don't get anything better till level 60 if you're like a warrior.
There's also mini Thunder Furies in there.
Oh.
There's a weapon called it's a mace called Antusul, and it does the exact same thing that Thunder Fury does. It's just weaker. Anyway, so another thing about Classic versus retail is Classic forces us to find groups for elite quests and dungeon groups, which of course forces us to get along, which of course forces better organized and friendly groups.
I think better behavior is forced by that kind of stuff, because I mean, if you get kicked from the group, it's going to be an hour before you can find another group that'll take you in.
Well,
and then maybe another hour before you get to the place where you were at before.
In theory, sure, but because there's such a huge influx of players right now, that's not the case. It's the greater consequence of being booted from a group is in retail when you join for a group, you join for your entire battle group of realms. So even if you get kicked from a group, there's no consequence because there's millions of other players for you to play with. In Classic, you're only playing with the people from your realm. So if you build a bad reputation for yourself, that's just going to stick on you.
Yes, reputation. I actually missed that. There was we used to play on the Anderhall server, and that server, talk about jank, that server would go down. It was probably one of the most unstable servers, one of the earliest servers that they had ever created. But one of the fun things I remember was that there would be a couple of named characters that as soon as you'd walk into Stormwind or just log into wherever you are that's connected to trade chat, and you'd hear these people even if it wasn't the people themselves, it would just everybody knew. It would be kind of like this Asmongold character. There were celebrity characters on every realm, and that's one thing that I haven't seen in, like you say, in 10 years at least. Probably since they started introducing the phasing technology.
What was that guy's name? They'd always
Which
go,
guy?
Hail! Hail!
Hail Horrigan!
Yeah, Horrigan.
I remember him, Horrigan, yeah.
Um,
Every now and then I feel the compulsion to just run into Stormwind and shout Hail Horrigan, but I don't think anybody would know what that meant.
well, I'm the lone wolf, so I've always like said, screw you. But I remember running into him once, and I was like, this guy probably has the crappiest gear because he just talks in trade chat all day. And I inspected him, and he was like in the best gear possible, and I was like, oh well, dang it.
It's because, like Asmongold, people just gave him everything.
Probably. I don't know.
We are really poo-pooing on this guy.
Another thing is around level 30 for me, it became apparent that I wasn't feeling competitive for level 60. I just wanted to enjoy the journey. And when I logged in on day 1, I was like, okay, let's see how fast I can get to 60. And I blitzed it as much as I could, and somewhere along the way, I was like, I don't want to race anymore. I just want to enjoy myself. And there was a couple people in my guild that were like, dude, I'm one level on you, man. I'm one level on you. And I was feeling it for a little while, but now I'm second highest level in my guild. I'm level 47 right now. And it's just because I'm focused when I log in. When I log in, I quest and stuff, and at the end of the day, maybe 15 minutes before I go offline, I socialize with the guild, and then I log off, and that's it. I build rest.
Yeah.
But I'm not super gung ho about I gotta level up as quickly as humanly possible, especially since that first 60 hit, or that first character hit 60 like 3 days in. It's like, oh well, he got there way faster than I did.
Yeah, you weren't even close. You know, and I was kind of feeling a little bit of the same thing. Kind of when I hit Darkshore, which is the second zone for the Night Elves, I hit Darkshore at level 10, and I just wanted to just go because I don't particularly like the zone all that much, and I'm anxious to get into the next one. And so, you know, the next probably 20 hours of my life in Darkshore, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not really that into this. And for about a level and a half, I was beginning to feel the feeling that I get when I'm leveling a new character in retail, where it's just like panic to get to the next level, and I wasn't enjoying myself all of a sudden. It was just like, nope, this is not for me. And I thought all of my initial kind of knee-jerk reaction about WoW Classic was going to come true for me. Like, I was going to get into it, love it for a little bit, and then I was going to quit because it wasn't what I wanted. And then, I don't know, I just started looking around, started taking a deep breath and telling myself, you know, calm down. This is going to take you months to get to 60. So just relax and enjoy it. And once I started doing that, you know, the fun factor came back in. So I think maybe, I guess the ultimate takeaway for myself, and there's probably other people that are the same, is that the process needs to be enjoyed as much as the finish line. And I think that's the real ticket. And you can take that back to retail, but I think it's a little bit harder with all of the incentives, I guess, that Blizzard has put on leveling up faster. It's harder to, and I think they were all well intentioned, because as they keep moving the benchmark from 60 to 70 to 80, 85, you know, keep increasing the level cap, you know, it gets more and more daunting. So I think they're well intentioned. They want to just make it faster, so that people don't, you know, they don't feel daunted and they don't create new characters. But I think WoW Classic is doing it right. I'm just enjoying the process all over again. So maybe all of this kind of comes full circle to maybe they need to introduce that level squish, so that people can enjoy the same 1 to 60 pace It doesn't feel quite so daunting, even if the total sum of all experience required to get to 60 is the same as it's required to get to 120. But it's just that wall isn't quite so large.
Well, exactly. And people, off of what you said earlier, people may not be realizing that there really aren't that many daily quests waiting for them at level 60. The only thing you really can do at 60 is Dungeoneer and Raid. So leveling and experiencing the world is like the prime focus of current content, right? There's professions, there's class quests, there's so many things you can do while leveling up, and I feel like that's the bulk of the enjoyment here. I mean, don't get me wrong, raiding will be fun because the vast majority of all World of Warcraft players ever haven't experienced a 40-man raid, and that's just gonna be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only time that I experienced a 40-man raid was when in retail they gave you that throwback to Molten Core that one time, and they just slapped 40 people together in a raid, and it was a really dumbed down, super easy version of the raid, and people still wiped to those stupid flaming dogs. But I mean, it would take you 3 hours to get through the raid, and anytime you died, you had to run right back from the beginning, and there was no skip forward past this wing or that wing like there is in current retail WoW. So yeah, it was a real slog. It wasn't that entertaining, and so I think they're like they were trying to show us how we the player, we might think that we want WoW Classic, but we don't really want it.
I know. Yeah.
And I think I think we're proving them wrong.
Oh yes, it's entirely possible. I remember last BlizzCon, was it, that Jay Allen Brack said that we didn't want Classic. Definitely not.
Yeah. Well, I guess time will tell, right? Because this could still go the same way that I'm expecting it, or that I was expecting it to go. I mean, the rush of popularity, and then things would dwindle off to, maybe 500,000 or 1 million players that would actually stick with it. It could be.
But usually, even in retail, people usually don't lose interest until they reach level cap. I find. Because it's so fast to level up, or you get that level boost, and it's just, okay, with the level boost, you only need 10 levels to get to level cap, and then, okay, now I can see if I enjoyed the game or not. And the genius, the real genius of Classic is you're like, okay, I'm gonna get to level cap, I'm gonna raid and do some dungeons, and then I'm gonna decide if I like the game or not.
Right.
And meanwhile, you're enjoying yourself more and more and more as you level up.
Yeah, and as we record this, WoW Classic will have been out for I guess 2 full weeks tonight, sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. And so I started a new character today as I was prepping for this podcast, and I can honestly say that the crowd in the starting zone is exactly the same today as it was like 4 weeks or a week and a half ago when I was finally able to get in, because I wasn't able to get in at launch. I had to wait a few days to come back from holidays, but there was probably about 100 people in the starting zone in Shadow Glen when I first logged in, and today there was still about 100 people in that same exact zone. So that's good news for its playability, even if it's people creating new characters. They're creating their second WoW Classic character, their third WoW Classic character. There's replayability, right? It's enjoyable enough that people are either getting into it for the first time, so it has legs, or it's replayable, and so it has legs.
Well, even for me, I really want to get my mage to level 60, but I really want to start playing my alts as well. Even though it took, I went pretty hardcore at my mage to level her up, and even though it's going to take even longer, because I'm going to be less hardcore with my alts, it's going to take even longer to get to level 60. I am overwhelmingly looking forward to that. So,
being quite honest, 60 is really not that much of a carrot for me. Even though at the beginning I was all like, gotta get there, right? We just kind of talked about that. But now that you mention it, when there's really only raid and dungeons for me to do, I honestly don't have that much time. I won't be able to do it with a guild, so I'll be, because I don't have the schedule that allows me to do that. I can't like commit to a day of the week, or to raid or do dungeons or whatever. So it's gonna have to be just all pickups, and I can't see myself being able to sit down to 4 hours to commit to something like that on any given Sunday.
I mean, they do have. It isn't exclusively 40 mans. There's also going to be some 10-man raids as well, and 20 mans, AQ 20, of course.
But in all honesty, I didn't get to max level until Burning Crusade, anyways.
Right. But on that subject, content is being pushed out in set phases, so there's even less to do at level 60 right now than we know of endgame vanilla, right? So. I think only Anixia's Lair and Molten Core is available at this current moment. And then they're going to have like 3 or 4 different phases for fully releasing their content. But the only difference between vanilla and now is that Blizz already has all their content fully finished. They're just placing the releases behind patch walls, which is totally fine. It's better to have all the content ready to go and just like paste properly than to have to wait it and maybe have delays or whatever else, right? You don't know when anything's going to happen. And of course, Blizz is really popular for doing that to us. Their whole soon TM thing, right?
Yeah. You know what I can't wait for? Well, what I really want to be part of this time around that I wasn't able to be part of in the first iteration of WoW Classic is I want to see and be part of the event to open the gates of Encourage.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone wants that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a helpless, hopeless slog and grind of, gathering all the materials to open the gates and get prepared for, the battle. But, hopefully the servers handle it better this time.
I'm sure they'll be much better equipped. But really, things have changed between now and back then. Content that took me literally, I was in grade 10 when I was leveling my dwarf paladin, and this in vanilla obviously, and I got to Searing Gorge, which is like a level 40 to 48 area ish. It doesn't have very many quests, but it's just the quests it does have are very focused. And so I remember getting there with my paladin, picking up all these quests and thinking to myself, holy smokes, I've been trying to find a questing area forever, and this place has like 12 quests for me. So I pick them all up, I start questing, I die again, I die again. I'm still enjoying myself, it's just these mobs are so much higher level than me that it just takes forever to kill each one. I have to sit and eat and drink after each fight, and I'm just like very carefully meandering around these mobs to find one that's singled out from the rest of them, etc. And that Searing Gorge took me about a month in vanilla to complete, because I have vivid memories, and of course I played way less. I was still in school, so I only played it for like an hour each night at total max. I didn't play it that much. And then I got to Searing Gorge yesterday with my mage and beat it in 3 hours.
Oh. Those 12 quests were a little easier.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's less that they're easier and more that I actually know like everything there is to know about WoW, as opposed to knowing nothing about WoW. So for sure. I can't tell you. Sorry. No, go for it.
I was going to say I can't tell you how often or how many times I died in Elwyn Forest in the Goldshire at that Cobalt mine. I must have died in the early years probably 200 times in that mine because they would just start respawning behind me, I'd kill 12 of them to get to the back of the mine, and then they'd all be respawn behind me, and they would all aggro, and I couldn't get out. That was just the way of life back then. Things were just, it was just, yeah. I don't even remember why I brought that up.
No, it's true though.
Oh yeah, because today, like I haven't died yet, with the exception of one of my characters that you and I were co-playing together, in that stupid Wendigo mine. That's really the only time I've died so far.
So regaining access to ranked spells may feel clunky at first when you're leveling up, but it's so much easier and more convenient to have access to my level 1 Frostbolt, so I can pull all the surrounding mobs to me before I start AoEing them. Because, let me tell you, I can cast Blizzard twice and then I'm out of mana. So it's nice to have this 20 mana costing Frostbolt to just reel them in without hurting myself. I could body pull them, but that's dangerous. And it really, really made me appreciate the fact that I have ranked spells. Same with my I can conjure food and water, and suddenly I'm like, oh well, this level 15 needs food. Boom! I can make food for him. In current WoW, unless you made that refreshment table, this level 15 could not ever benefit from you.
I'm staring at my computer screen with a confused expression on my face because I have the opposite experience. I was actually going to bring that up as one of the things that I appreciated that they didn't change going back to WoW Classic, is because when I open up my spell book, I only have one level of the spell. I mouse over it and it says level 2. Or level 3, whichever quality of the spell it is. I don't have access to the original 2 spells. You know what I'm saying? Like Heroic Strike, right? I upgraded Heroic Strike, and I don't have access to number 1 yet anymore.
No, of course not. Why would you have access to an earlier Heroic Strike as a warrior?
Well, I'm not sure, but why would you have access to a different Frostbolt or a different heal if you don't have it for all your spells?
Because Heroic Strike never changes in cost. That's the difference.
I see.
Frostbolt costs never 20 changes. Mana at level 1, but it costs 600 mana at level 60.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All right. I can see that.
That's what I'm saying. If I can only cast Blizzard twice before I'm I want to save my mana bar as much as humanly possible.
Fair enough. And I was really confused because I've heard other people, like other podcasters, who are giving the same exact experience as you are. They're like, yeah, it's so nice to have our really weak heals, if I'm healing and somebody just needs a little top up. And I'm like, that's not my experience. But maybe I'm just not far enough in any of my casters to have noticed that.
Yeah, I that example you just gave was going to be my next example. Is healing is going to be so much better because of the earlier rank spells.
I'm a guy that doesn't. I don't do well with clutter on my action bars, so I appreciate having only one spell.
But another like Heroic Strike is actually a really good example, because Heroic Strike, the only changes from rank to rank is damage. But with Frostbolt, it's cheaper. It does less damage. It still has the slow. It casts faster at lower ranks. There's a lot of, and it's the same with heals. It's the same with other offensive casters like the priest, like Smite or something like that. It's just universally cheaper and faster, more efficient. And if you're sitting there and you're designated to heal that tank through Ragnaros's Hammerfalls, well, it's probably going to be better to spam the medium heals, not the big heals, because they're going to go but those medium heals are pretty good. And it's all the same heal, right?
I can see the strategy behind it, sure.
Anyway, so moving on, class quests. Oh my gosh, I miss class quests so much. They're awesome. They're not even
You know what's sad? Is I found myself not even reading quests, and I should at least read the class quests for sure.
Well, I was going to say, they're not awesome for the lore. They're just, the rewards aren't phenomenal, although they sometimes are. But the simple aspect of having that personal quest just makes you feel more important. You can find a group and commit blind genocide in Red Ridge Mountains, go back to town, pick up a class quest that involves dealing with a traitor to your cause, or gathering materials for a special piece of armor or a weapon, and it's a totally different experience from that mindless slaughter you just committed. You're like, oh my gosh, now I have to go there? That's an elite area. Because of course there's open world elite areas now. And you're like, oh, how? So as a mage, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to suicide run it. So I'd run in and Frost Nova, Ice Block, and blink and try to get to my item, and then I'd die. And I'm like, ah. Oh. So then I'd res and I'd res in some corner and be like, okay, I can sheep that guy. I can Frost Nova those guys. I'll slow them down. I'll kite them while I try to kill the other elite. And you're like, man, I could do this with a group, but holy crap if it isn't awesome by yourself.
I don't have the same tenacity you do.
Oh man, you have no idea. It's awesome.
I get and it probably would be, but you're also the guy that beat the Mage Tower on how many different characters?
Mage Tower?
Yeah, the Mage Tower in Legion.
What are you talking about?
Come on the island of shattered nonsense. That big Mage Tower where you'd have to go in and fight you'd have to pay a certain amount of badges or whatever and go in and fight the mage so you could get a special cosmetic appearance for your artifact weapon.
Yeah, those were awesome too.
Yeah, and I didn't beat that. I didn't beat that with a single character, not even one.
Well, some of them were easy. But yeah, some of them were definitely very, very difficult. Oh, I wish you could. Can you still do those? I guess it would be stupid now that you're overleveled. Damn it.
I think you can still do them, but I don't think that you can get the cosmetic appearance for your weapon.
Okay.
There's no rewards, but you can still do it.
Yeah, it's just that whole class quest thing is just like I remember there's a Red Paladin in our guild who he's like level 35 or 40 now, but he bought this sword. It looks super dorky, but it's a rare like world drop, and it's like 10 times better than his previous weapon. Like by a country mile, it is better in all regards. And so we were all cheering for him that he got this weapon, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm replacing this," and then he linked his paladin mace that he got from it's a two-handed hammer that he got from a quest at like level 20. And so he was like, man, I love this weapon so much, but I gotta get rid of it because the sword is awesome. And when you click on the weapon, there's something interesting about it. It's a ret weapon, a retribution weapon, but it's just intellect and spirit. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's another thing about this game is you get wonky stats, and people still love them.
I remember in my first time through retail, in like Mulgore, I was running through with my very first Tauren, and I'm like throwing all these like cool greens on the auction house, and I'm like, why isn't anybody buying this something of the owl or something of the whale? And I'm looking up this same exact belt of the bear, and it's selling for like 4 gold, and I'm like, oh man, I can sell this thing for 4 gold.
Let's do a little test right now.
Okay.
Name an animal and the stats associated with it.
Okay, well, bear is strength and stamina.
Yeah. Eagle.
Eagle is intellect and... Stamina? Okay.
Tiger.
Agility and stamina.
No.
Strength and agility?
Yes.
Booyah! First try.
What about... Did I say owl?
No.
Owl?
I said owl. Owl is intellect and spirit.
Yeah. What about falcon?
Agility and intellect.
Oh man, okay, wolf.
Uh, a, strength and agility.
No, that's tiger.
Oh, agility and stamina.
I think it's agility and spirit, actually. I forgot as I asked it. I'm sure there's a couple others, but whatever.
There's whale. There's
whale. Yeah.
Whale is spirit and stamina, the
That's
most
right.
useless combo ever.
Now hold the phone, my friend. There are now a lot of different stats that do different things. So strength only increases attack power.
Right.
It doesn't do anything else. So it's actually really, really helpful for what we identify as like agility-based classes. Agility
Right.
increases ranged attack power, which of course is good for hunters, but it also increases crit chance. So it too is super helpful for just all the physical DPS classes.
Right.
Spirit, of course, it's regeneration for mana and health.
Yeah.
And that's important for mages. What I've discovered, sort of, 'cause I never leveled a mage in vanilla, but what I've discovered as I level up is I need to make sure my spirit is just high enough that when I use evocation, I get all my mana back. So evocation gives you
Right.
1500% of your regeneration, but if your spirit's too low, it won't even at 1500% regeneration, it won't refill your whole mana bar, so it's kind of useless.
Right.
So yeah, that's sort of like an invisible thing that I have to pay attention to. Intellect increases the rate at which you learn weapon skills, and then it also increases
Very
crit chance.
important.
Yeah. Weapon skills, by the way, you have to go to a weapon trainer now, a weapon master. If you start as a mage, you only know how to use staves, but you can go to a weapon trainer to learn how to use like swords and stuff as well.
Right.
And I thought that was like, oh, I totally forgot about them. So when I logged in with my mage, I was like, mages can only use staves? And I was just
And isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? It's when you really boil it down, it is a major inconvenience.
It
Right?
is.
It's a major inconvenience, but it's an inconvenience that seems to add depth. And probably because of the nostalgic factor, there's like a fondness there. It's like, oh, you tricked me again. And then you run back to town and you train the new weapon.
That's right. One big thing that I've also noticed is, do you remember relics?
Yes.
Relics, of course, for the audience out there, paladins, shaman, and druids, I believe, all had special items that fit in their ranged slot that weren't ranged items. They were just items with stats on them. Paladins had librams, the shaman had totems. I forget what druids had. But I have never seen a single one in the game yet. I know they're generally higher level items, but I haven't seen any anywhere, and I don't know if they exist in the game.
Well, when you are done 60, you can download the Atlas loot for Classic and find out.
I know. I have to wait. I was so tempted to get a damage meter because, again, going back to that Zul'Farrak run, the warrior at the end of each run was like, "Hey, whisper me if you want to know your DPS," and I was like, constantly joking that I was carrying the team, even though I was like 5 levels lower than everyone else. But it really made me want to get a damage meter because obviously it's just for your own self gratification and stuff like that when you're dead engineering.
Well, it's another way to measure your success is how you're watching your damage track higher and higher as you get better and better.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I actually miss not having. I don't have a damage meter in retail, but I just don't care that much because everything just melts as soon as I walk up to it. It's just like, oh, the thing's dead.
Yeah. Actually,
so
I remember
it doesn't really matter.
I remember when whatever it's called, Nazjatar, or the Sunken City, first released. they sent me there, and I was like, ooh, these are going to be some new super powerful mobs. And they weren't. They still melted. And I was like, I haven't played the game for like 6 months, 8 months, and I'm still melting them in my resto gear. Like, it's just, ugh.
Yeah, it's true. It's gotten to the point where there's no stakes anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that might be part of it. Like, so the lore, I love where they're going with the lore. I love the Battle for Azeroth lore. I love Jaina Proudmoore, like, probably to an unhealthy level.
Is she your waifu?
That let's just say I whisper her name sometimes when my wife's not in the room. No, I'm kidding. But when she didn't show up at all in Legion, except for like the very, very, very beginning, she was absent for 98% of Legion, and I was like, this is going to be the worst expansion ever. Turns out it was one of the best ones ever, but it would have been better with Jaina. And now that she's back in Jaina, I'm all over. Or sorry, now that she's back in Battle for Azeroth, I'm all over the lore, and I still listen to like a couple of lore podcasts every week, and I'm just loving the story. But I just can't play the game. I can't bring myself to play the game. And Nazjatar, like I logged into Nazjatar, and I'm like, hey, this place is gorgeous. Like their arts team just did phenomenal. Everything is so nice in there, and I'm just disconnected. I cannot get into it because everything, like you say, just melts. And then I've got a whole stinking new currency I have to learn how to, store up and what I need to spend it on. And it was the same thing with Mechagon.
Right.
It's like a whole nother currency, and it's a whole nother. It's just like kind of this whole rinse repeat thing. I'm just not that into it.
Everyone likened the Mechagon experience to the Timeless Island, and I was like, oh, I liked Timeless Island. I went to Mechagon, and I did not have at all the same experience.
Oh, no?
No, like you said, it was like a total disconnect from everything else. Timeless Island was also a disconnect from the Pandaria, like, continent, but it felt like it was still Mists of Pandaria. When you go to Mechagon, it's like a completely different climate. Like, it's so different from like, the rest of the other two continents that you're like, okay, this is just off the coast. Why is it so different looking?
Yeah.
It was a little bit jarring for me.
And I didn't really care too much for the mindless dailies. Like it was the same thing every single day, just about.
Well, yeah. Also, the whole Mechagon gnome affiliation thing with Horde and Alliance bugged me, because I get that we're sort of this separate new entity to their culture, but at the same time, why are they welcoming both Alliance and Horde with open arms without any questions asked? Like, it's just, oh yeah, you're all welcome. It's like, I definitely do not agree with that. It's just, I'm sorry. I can talk about that stupid island for a while. I don't want to.
Right on. Well, what is there? We've been kind of poo-pooing on the retail experience and extolling the virtues of the WoW Classic experience, but there's one more thing that I have on my list that I want to cover tonight, and it's a little bit of the other side. It's a look at the other side, and it's what I wish that they had carried into Classic, that they had kept from retail. So what is missing? What do I wish that they hadn't pared away? And the first thing I want to mention, and I know that I already mentioned this to you, is the updated models, the character models.
Okay.
I walk into, because I have two female night elves at this point, and I one of them is a caster, so she's not carrying anything in her hands. She's a priest, and so she does this stupid cast animation where all I can see is the lunch boxes on the ends of her arms, and I'm just like, this is so bad. I wish that they had a slider, an option to check a box to have the new character models just superimposed in old WoW. And that goes for more than just the new character models. Like the trees. The trees look jank as hell. They are so bad. They're just a whole bunch of flat plains. And if you look at the tree from this angle, you can see those branches. But you move a little bit, and then those branches disappear, and these branches show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's really interesting to me about that, actually, is I'm not sure if you remember, but water in this game, in Classic, looks 10 times better than it does in Vanilla. And I don't know why they...
Not the way I have it. Because my computer can't handle the updated water model.
Well, I used to run max graphics in Vanilla, and I'm running max graphics currently in Classic, and the water looks way different. Like it doesn't look as good as retail, but it still looks way, way, way different. Because it even on max graphics in Vanilla, it took a long time. It took until, like, I want to say Cataclysm before they updated the water graphics. So for a long time, the water was just that stupid, like, blank canvas.
Yeah,
never
you know what
reacted
it was?
To anything.
It was Cataclysm, because I remember running around at that huge stone spire in Desolus, and I hadn't been in Desolus forever. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I can see all the water from here. This brand new water that looks great.
Yeah, for me,
so it had to be Cataclysm.
It was a specific memory for me because of Gilneas leveling a Worgen up. When Deathwing first, like, crunches Gilneas, and you come out of that Deathwink.
You just called him Deathwink.
It's not that funny. He winks sometimes.
Only when he's got something in his eye, and then everybody dies.
That's right. That's his nickname now.
All right.
So when he crunches Gilneas and you're in the house and you come outside, to like basically a new shore, and you're like, holy crap! It's all new water, and that's sort of cemented in my memory.
Yeah. The other thing, one of the other things that I wish that they still had, is the sparkles.
Oh, I love that there's no sparkles.
You love that there's no sparkles.
It's awesome. We were going through Scarlet Monastery, right? We were going through the library, and there's like 6 billion books in the library, and we have 2 quests to pick up books. And they're like, where the heck's the books? Where's the book? Where's the books?
And I'm like, had to search.
I'm laughing my head off because I found it. And when you pick up a book, it despawns, and it takes a couple seconds for it to respawn. So it very obviously despawns, and then very obviously spawns back in, and they're all like standing around it. They're like, where is it? I don't see it. Is it this one? And you're like, yes, this is what I like.
Well, again, in that stupid Shadow Glen starting area, I can't tell you how many. I remembered very vaguely in the back of my head that those hyacinth mushrooms. I remember very vaguely in the back of my head that I think they're around the base of trees. But because there was 150 people in the starting area, like I ran around probably 100 trees before I found my stupid first mushroom, and maybe it wouldn't have helped the problem, because if everybody saw the mushrooms from further away, then they'd all be gone just that much more. But to me, in my head, I was like, man, I wish they would sparkle so I could see them from across the world.
Right.
Yeah. So I miss those. I do still wish that they had sparkles, because it's going to change, right? They can't possibly keep up the same level of activity in the starting areas. So it's going to change. It's going to be nice. It would be nice in the future for them to have those, and you know, we just talk about sparkles as though the audience knows exactly what we're talking about. Whenever there's something to interact with in retail WoW, like a corpse that you can loot, or in this case, a mushroom that you can pick,
like a quest object.
Yeah, it has this kind of a glowing yellow sparkle that kind of, it's not intrusive. It's not like this giant garish kind of, but it's there's enough movement to catch your eye to kind of clue you in that there's something to interact with over here. And I miss that. I wish that they had sparkles in Classic WoW.
Yeah, and while I agree that it isn't intrusive, I also think it's more immersive that there's like no sparkles at all.
Yeah,
I feel more. That. I feel more connected to the world. That's all.
Yeah.
But I haven't been reading any of the quests either, mostly because I have a pretty good handle on classic WoW lore.
Yeah.
I do want to eventually start a character and slowly read all the quests and really truly take my time, but for now I'm like, well, I'm good. I'm enjoying myself in the gameplay and all that anyway, so the lore isn't required yet, let's say.
Yeah, you're right. One more thing that I really am missing is, and I haven't had the chance to miss it yet, but I know that I will, is more levels. Right, when we get to 60, I'm going to be so elated that I get to 60, and I'll be like, woohoo! I've reached the carrot. I've attained this thing, but I know that shortly on the heels of that, there's going to be like this mini depression where I'm just like, oh, now what? Now how do I set my own goals? How do I measure my own success in this game? Because like I alluded to before, I don't have the time to commit myself to a raid team and show up week after week and and continue to improve my gear like that. So I'm gonna have to, like I say, invent my own measures of success at that point. So I know that I am going to miss more levels in the future, and I really hope that they add some more kind of end game content for guys like me.
Well, I while I do intend on raiding as well, myself rather, I will say that I've already set goals for myself. I want to. One thing about vanilla WoW is I only got to like level 54 or 56 or something with my dwarf. I did Zul'Gurub once, and it was they just needed to pad out their raid, have a meat shield in there, and I didn't really do much to participate. So I didn't really get to experience raiding much, but one thing that is interesting between Classic and Vanilla going forward is in Vanilla going forward, what I mean by that is Vanilla and all its future expansions. I was always just a bit behind the curve. I was always like, okay, well, I got to level 70 with my Draenei warrior, but because he was Draenei and there weren't level boosts back then, I had to level up from 1. So right. I reached 70 after that initial wave of level 60 players hit 70. So
right.
I was just a little bit behind the curve if there was people raiding and stuff already before me, and I was enjoying myself, but I wasn't with that initial wave. And it continued with this quite a bit through the other expansions. I leveled up quickly in the other expansions. It was just by that point it was too late. And what I'm referring to is things like, even though achievements don't exist in Classic, one of my primary goals in Classic is I want to max out all my professions. So that's
right.
The primaries and the secondaries. I want to complete all the quests. I think that's because because Classic is specifically restricted to just Classic. It's actually going to be they're easy to do all the quests. So I want to do that. And then I want to do all the dungeons. And this way, and this sort of rolls neatly into my next little topic point here is, what's the future of Classic?
Before we get there, because that was kind of what I wanted to round off with too. But
well, too bad I did.
I want to real quickly cover my last point of things that I miss and wish that they had in WoW, and that last one, or in Classic, and that last one is transmog.
Okay.
I miss, because I know that when I get to level 60, I'm going to run around in a monkey suit, and I know that everybody else is going to look like they have a monkey suit, except for the rare person who farms the right materials, or the right not materials, but the
set
right
pieces or something.
Set pieces. But even the set pieces didn't really match, right?
They do.
So I suppose, yeah, once you get, but I mean, you still have things like, because they're like 4-piece set pieces, so you'll still have things like your boots or your belt that'll stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? So everybody's going to end up looking like they have a monkey suit on, unless they agree to find something that matches, that's probably not the best in slot or the best quality item. You know, they might have to drop 10 or 15 item levels and or you know, and kind of either have a one for showing, one for fighting kind of set of armor, and I'm not real keen on that. I kind of wish that I would be able to take this Garbo belt that I have and be able to make it, or it looks like garbage, but it's the best in slot, and make it look like it actually means something.
Right.
I really did like that about Transmog when they first introduced that. I think it was Cataclysm, or Mists maybe. All of a sudden, everybody who was like level 60, or not level 60, but max level, which would have been like 85 in Cataclysm or 90 in Mists. I don't remember which one it was, but everybody just looked so dang cool. And I remember looking up to those people and being like, man, these guys, they're just like, they look great, they look fantastic, and I can't wait till I get there. And that was just another, for a guy like me who didn't have a heck of a lot of time, it was another small way for me to measure my success. And talk about immersion. If I'm doing great in the world, I want to look great. I don't want to look like I'm, wearing a piece of hand-me-down clothing that my older brother gave me.
Well, actually, speaking of that, what's really interesting between retail and classic is, in classic, when you inspect someone, you can't look at their talents.
Right.
And there's no armory in vanilla either, so there's no way of checking somebody's talents. You have no idea if they're an actual spec tank or just a Retribution Paladin masquerading as a tank.
Right.
But another interesting thing about inspecting people is you have to be within 5 yards of them to inspect them.
Right.
So you actually have to walk right up to the person. It's much more RP like roleplay.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay. Real quick question here. I don't ever remember there being the dressing room in original WoW, in vanilla. Is that something that they just kept in for Classic that wasn't actually there during vanilla?
No, that's been there forever.
Has it?
So.
Maybe I just didn't know how to use it when I was playing through vanilla. Dressing room is like this case where you can put on a new piece of gear. Oh, you know what? Sorry, no. Let me finish my thought. Not a piece of gear, but you could check out what it would look like on your character just by shift right clicking on the item, even if it's in your bag or it's in somebody links it in the chat pane. You can shift right click on it and it'll show your character wearing that just so you can see what it would look like.
But what's that other thought?
But it wasn't in the. Oh, I'm hammering on my table here. It wasn't in the auction house.
No. It definitely wasn't in the auction house.
That's what it was, because you had to, if you wanted to worry about how your character looked, you had to just buy a bunch of randoms and try them on and see what they look like.
Yeah. Yeah. When you mentioned the dressing room, I did have a moment of hesitation, but I do believe that it must have existed, because I remember I wanted to build the Imperial set for my Paladin in vanilla, and I knew exactly what it looked like, and I don't know why I knew exactly what it looked like, unless I could show it on myself.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about the futures.
Yeah. So what does the future of Classic WoW look like after we've been playing this for 2 years or a year and a half, and we're all kind of we've got a bunch of characters at level 60, and we're kind of starting to run dry on things that we, maybe not that we could do, but things that we want to do.
Right.
What do you think the future of WoW Classic looks like?
This is one of those infinite possibilities. There's so many different branches that Blizzard could go from here that I struggle to think of which one to bring up first. I would say if they came out with the Classic realm, they're probably going to come out with classic versions of each expansion as well.
You think so? That's a lot of servers to keep spinning.
Well, the thing is, they don't have to produce more servers to do that. Instead of making here's Burning Crusade, you have now a active, or you now have a new level cap. Instead of doing that, they can say, well, hey, here's Burning Crusade on your realm. You don't have to experience it unless you talk to this person. And then the players who just want to keep playing vanilla can play literally separated, phased out of like literal phasing, and not experience the level 61 plus players around them.
Okay. Yeah, I can be on board with that.
They have the technology to be able to do it. There's no reason
Yeah.
why they wouldn't.
Interesting. And I mean, WoW Classic was only 4 gigabytes to download.
Yeah.
So it can't possibly take up. I mean, each successive one is going to take up more space, but it can't take up. But here's the thing. So if Classic is 4 gigs, and Burning Crusade is 6 gigs, and Wrath of the Lich King is 10, and they just keep getting more and more and more exponentially larger, the lion's share of that data is stored on your computer.
Well, yes, but I don't know how big your hard drive is. I haven't been keeping up with the newest technology, but I just bought an external hard drive, for example, for 40. It was on sale, sure. It was $45, and it's 6 terabytes.
Yeah.
So in the
I
question
have a
of
1 terabyte internal hard drive.
in the question of 50 or 60 gigabytes, even my original hard drive that came with this computer is 2 terabytes. Like, it's not. I don't think hard drive space is the concern.
I think it's one of the concerns, because I myself, I don't have a gaming computer, not by any stretch of the imagination, but what I use my computer for is pretty exclusively gaming, and pretty exclusively Blizzard content. So between the few Blizzard games that I have on here, and maybe a few gigs of family pictures and videos and stuff, I am pretty quickly approaching the end of my terabyte just with that. If we start introducing, bringing the installation of World of Warcraft all the way up to 250 gigs, I mean, that's going to be a lot to ask.
Why would that be 250 gigs?
Well, I'm just thinking of I'm thinking of Battle for Azeroth. I'm thinking of Legion and Warlords and these ones that are bigger. And I'm also thinking of next expansion, right? If they make it so that the one installation has options to choose which expansion you want to play in, and have it, kind of the world capped at that, that's going to be all of that data, But it's going to be all of it's not quite the sum of all the data, but it's going to be a lot of it.
But Battle for Azeroth is also all the expansions before it, and that's like 65 gigabytes. I don't know where these huge numbers are coming from for you.
Well, I guess time would tell. So I was summing it all up, but
Summing what all up?
Well, all of the sum of all of the download installations for each of the expansions prior. I was just making a shot in the dark. I don't know that it would be 250 gigs, but I'm saying that if that's what it comes down to, if you have to download, each game in its entirety, because a lot of the files in Battle for Azeroth, yes, they replaced the earlier files, but they change a lot of them too. Maybe not in Battle for Azeroth, but I'm thinking specifically of Cataclysm. Like, the entire world changed, right? And zones change. I keep cutting you off. Sorry, but I just think that it would be a big. I do think it would be a mammoth file.
You have to take into consideration that vanilla was by far the largest single piece of content from World of Warcraft. It has way more landmass, way more graphics, way more sound bites, way more icons and weaponry and everything than the other expansions by themselves had.
I disagree. Where are you finding that?
That's just from personal experience. You think the continents of vanilla are dwarfed by the expansion continents? That's a lot of information that the developers have to design. That's a lot of space.
When you have a character model that goes from 800 polygons to 6,500 polygons, it quickly becomes apparent that there's far, far, far more data in that one character model. I wouldn't be surprised if all of the data that it took to make, let's say, Nashatar, that all of that data would be more than 4 gigs. four. I'm using 4 gigs to because WoW Classic is a 4 gig installation. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that one zone would be more than the entire original installation.
Well,
are you looking it up?
No, I'm not. But I got a second idea while you were talking about how, if you look at 2004 versus 2019, we are exponentially more efficient at space use. So if
like in your data files, you mean?
Yes, like
okay.
This, like if you look at something like, what's a good example? GoldenEye 64.
Okay.
That's like 30 megabytes. That whole game.
Okay.
So if you look at that compared to, what's another game of that same generation? Final Fantasy VII. Same generation.
Sure.
Infinitely larger. I have lost my point, Daniel.
Well, I'm so glad that we took off on this tangential trail.
What was I
doing? About the
doing?
future of WoW. I don't know. We were talking about the size of games. Animal. So, what does the future of WoW look like? We covered one such option that they might make it so that you can just kind of like talking to the Bronze Dragon guys in various locations in WoW, where you can choose what point in history you want to experience this zone at.
Right.
So that's one option. Another option that I personally would be interested in, and I know that I wouldn't be making a lot of friends here, but I would be personally interested in a divergence of the Force. No, not actually that, but like a divergence of the lore. I realized after I said a divergence of, I was like, I have to say it. But like a divergence
parallel
of the
universe.
Lore. Let's have a parallel universe. Let's say that Illidan, talking about Burning Crusade here, Illidan, the big bad of Burning Crusade, doesn't actually become a bad guy, right? Maybe he actually doesn't get killed. We don't actually kill him. He actually pulls it off in destroying the Legion. Spoilers. What would that look like? And how would the rest of the world react? How would Arthas, who is more powerful than Illidan, we've seen Arthas and Illidan fight before, and Arthas beats him, so we know how would Arthas behave? I would just love to see them come up with new lore, but not, it's not retail WoW, it's classic, but it's a divergence. It's 15 years earlier, and different things happen. They can just explore, different flips of the coin.
I gotta say, I don't think you're a good guest on my show.
What did I do wrong?
We agree too much. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Oh my goodness!
Because my Burning Crusade is my favorite expansion, and my biggest and loudest gripe about the whole thing is that they made Illidan into a villain, and that they made Kael Fass into a villain, because he wasn't a villain either. So Kael Fass became a meme lord, and Illidan, everyone's favorite character, became this villain that we had to kill. And it felt so bad doing that. I hated every moment of it. And so this idea of expanding into a divergent storyline would be awesome. Yeah. You could make Kael Fass find his way back to his Blood Elf brethren. You could make the Blood Elves join the Alliance and have something else join the Horde. You could do so many different things.
Exactly.
You could have the Alliance apologize to the Blood Elves and you get some union going there, right?
As we alluded to in a previous episode, or I think I spoke to, is I'm super intrigued in seeing a World of Warcraft where there is no alliance versus horde, or maybe the lines get drawn up differently. Do you know what I mean? Maybe like you say, the Blood Elves are part of the alliance, the Worgen are part of the horde, and you just totally mix things up. And it's not something that has to be so rigid as it is today. Like once a race forms an alliance with one of those factions, they never leave.
Yeah, and it makes.
I want to see that
sense.
change.
If you look at,
go ahead.
If you look at the history of the world, that never happens. I mean,
No.
it's happened in the last 100 years because we had 2 staggering world wars.
Yeah.
But prior to that, alliances never held.
Well, exactly. There'd be infighting, right? Especially at a time when you've beaten the big bad, like Arthas. Okay, Arthas has been beaten. He's off in Northrend licking his wounds. Why why would these night elves continue to be part of the alliance? Right? They don't care for the humans. Right?
Exactly.
I don't know. So I would really like to see them explore more of that kind of I guess blurring of the lines. Make it more human, like more fallible reactions from our lovable characters.
Right. You had things like the Tauren, who had no reason to hate humans.
Yeah.
No reason at
the
all.
Tauren should be alliance.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily, but they're by proxy of being friends with the orcs, they hate the humans, and that makes sense.
think about the geopolitical implications as well. I mean, you think about if the Tauren were to join the alliance, where is Mulgore located?
Yeah, well, of course.
In the freaking heart of Kalimdor, right?
Yeah.
Among all of the other hordes. So what would happen, right? All of a sudden there'd be a war. There'd be a war there, and And what would the Alliance do to come in and save this new race that's theirs? Oh, they might fly their gunships in. They might do all kinds of really cool things. The gnomes might set up all kinds of really cool like bunkers and bombs and all that stuff. And the goblins would be dragged in. And it would just, the potential is amazing. Why do we have to stick with the lines drawn up as they are?
Right. But returning to the initial... because of course the storyline stays the same in Classic, so we can't actually do that with current races. We can't just, I mean, we could, but we like what I'm saying is if we introduce new races and stuff like that, we can have more creativity with it than current already established races with their currently already established teams.
Yeah. But has the WoW Classic team committed to following in the same footsteps as every other expansion, or being true to the lore?
They have made no promises of any sort.
Yeah, and none that I'm aware of anyway. So I think the freedom for them is still there if they have enough, I guess, desire from the community for it.
Right, and when you, of course, I'm not sure how it is in retail, I can't remember, it's been too long, but when you start a new character on the Horde side that isn't Forsaken, and you look at your reputation tab, the Forsaken are neutral with the Horde. And what's really interesting about that is the Forsaken could also be neutral with the Alliance.
Absolutely.
They're so neutral that they could be either friend to either kind of thing, right?
Well, that was one of the
big
things. That was one of the big things that had me so unbelievably excited for Battle of Azeroth, was because in the I don't remember what it's called, but like the novel by Christy Golden that takes place between Legion and Battle for Azeroth. I don't remember the title of that book, but in that book, the Alliance is actually extending an olive branch toward the Forsaken because the Forsaken are basically being ignored and abused, pardon me, by Sylvanas, their leader. And they're basically the Forsaken. They're just these undead. They're not mindless. They're completely mindful. They're in their right minds, but they're basically their body is rotting from around them. But they are raised from the dead, and what they were in life is they were human beings. They used to be part of the sister kingdom to Stormwind. They were part of the kingdom of Lordaeron, and so they were like they're basically family already. The fact that they're part of the Horde is just by unhappy chance. And they would, like you say, they would have no affinity to the Horde. Why would they be interested at all in being part of the Horde, except that Arthas was a human?
Right.
Arthas is the one that's ultimately responsible for turning them all into undead, and Arthas was a human. But Arthas is an enemy to everyone, not just the Horde.
That's right.
The Alliance, yeah. So they could just as easily, and in that novel, anyways, they were exploring the thought of having a family reunification between those family members that are still alive and those Forsaken that have, they're dead but brought back. So they're ugly as sin, and then maybe they have parts of their body falling off, and they probably don't smell too great, but they're still them.
Right. I would say, actually. Because you mentioned Arthas, going even further beyond Burning Crusade, I was going to ask you if you had any kind of maybe chagrin, I guess you could say, if Blizzard decided to change Arthas' story. Because his story is really, really well done. But would
his story is really good, I'll agree.
But would you be against them changing it for the sake of a parallel universe? Would you feel offended if he wanted to do something else with that character?
I think ultimately it would depend on what they did. I deeply love his story. Absolutely, I think it's one of the best stories that they've ever told, and I actually think that that's what the Warcraft movie should have been about. So I think it's one of their strongest narratives. Would I be okay with them changing it? Yes, if they replace it with something of equal quality.
Well, the shtick with Arthas is that he's Darth Vader, but Darth Vader has good in him, and Arthas is like completely taken over by the helmet, basically.
Well, and that's the unfortunate thing, is that Arthas is still in there, right? But he's been, like you say, he's been taken over by
Ner'zhul.
Is it Ner'zhul in the helmet? Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that if I read anything, even if it's the kind of novel that's like 10 out of 10, in my opinion, I try to really write it in my mind.
Yeah.
Same with watching movies and stuff. I like to just rethink how differently they could end up. And in the case of Arthas, I was thinking of like still have him as maybe the final boss, but like his story arc would, instead of being him trying to conquer humans, it could be his undead are suddenly running rampant because he's, as Arthas, struggling suddenly against Ner'zhul.
Yeah.
And so he's lost control of the hordes, and that's a huge threat in itself, right?
He could still, like you say, ultimately be the big bad of the expansion, but it more plays to the victim.
Yes.
One neat thing, story arc that we could explore would be Arthas's his campaign against the Burning Legion.
Right.
And we never really get to see very much of that, apart from him kind of chasing after Mal'Ganis and just yelling, "I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!" And you're like, okay,
and that's the
wonderful.
end of
it. Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, it's the Legion that are responsible for him being where he's at, because. So who is Ner'zhul? He ultimately was controlled by killed Jaden, which is the second-hand right-hand guy to Sargeras, who is ultimately the head of the entire Legion. So I just think it would be really neat to see Arthas, whose beef with the Legion begins like right from the beginning, actually, right from Warcraft 3, actually see him pursue that and maybe conquer, maybe not, maybe he falls to the Legion eventually, but what a cool divergence in the story to be able to fight alongside Arthas, and ultimately the tragedy of his death could come about in a different way.
See, the Idea Man has ideas now that are idea-rific. So
What does that mean?
You know, in Burning Crusade, you just go up to Illidan and kill him, and that's it, and then you move on to Sunwell Plateau.
But that's not it. He goes, "The hunter is nothing without the prey."
I don't care about that part. So you kill him and you just move on with your life. But lore-wise, him and Arthas are against the same people.
Yeah.
So you could have the whole Illidan build-up fight, and then at the end of the fight, he's like, "Enough of this nonsense! We're here to kill Jaden!" Then he's the one who points you towards Kill Jaden. And you're like, what? Wait, what? What's been happening up until this point? And then you get sort of kerfuffled. He survives, and then into Wrath of the Lich King, he's this powerful neutral party that's like, "I'm gonna help you!" And you could introduce a race that goes along with him that's like Pandarans, where it's like neutral race or something like that.
Called Death Knights.
Yes. And then have Demon Hunters with Arthas. I get it. But then with Arthas, it could be the same thing. You get into the final fight, and right before you kill him, he's like, "Wait! This isn't my fate!" Or something like that. And then explain, "I'm killing the Legion." And then the next expansion could build to, "Oh my god, all these guys,
on board. All
these minions that I thought were like fighting for me," says Sargeras, are actually working against me. Illidan and he knew that Illidan was against him, but Arthas is sort of this powerful mortal entity.
Yeah. And at this point, we don't really know much about the Titans, so we could even change up the Titan lore a little bit and make that a little bit more exciting, because we're at the point right now in WoW, in retail WoW, where we've pretty well bested every big bad out there, with the exception of there's one old god left, and then maybe the Void Lords after them, but the Void Lords are so primal that they're not really a thing you can fight. It's like trying to kill winter with a sword. Like it's not really, it's a force. It's not really an entity that you can fight and beat. So after we're done with the old gods, like I don't know what else there is to explore. They kind of wrote themselves into a bit of a corner. It'd be neat if we could go back to Titans, if we could go back to different old gods that come back, if we could, write a different background mythos to the World of Warcraft.
Right.
And, just have more. A different, like we said, a divergence of the story, and just have more. Yeah,
I think there's so many possibilities that the only real downside to it is they could like flounder. They could come up with a story that's awful, and it's like, oh no, Blizzard, talk to your fans, man.
Do you think that Christy Golden could, because she's the one that's leading the story development team now, right?
I think so.
I don't know that she would put out something that's anything but amazing.
So here's the
Everything
thing.
I've ever seen her put her hand to has turned out really well.
I haven't really read much of her stuff, but like, how much of an influence has she had on recent expansions as far as story is concerned?
So I think some of the first stuff that she put her hand to is like the as far as in-game stuff. I think that, oh gosh, what's his name? Sourfang. I think Sourfang's story is hers.
Okay.
I don't know about Anduin. I don't know if Anduin's story is hers. I'm pretty sure, and like the novel Between that covers Anduin, I think that's hers. I don't know if Anduin's story in-game is hers at this point. But I think that pretty well from Battle for Azeroth on, it's her story.
Okay, now that's why it's kind of concerning to me, is because in theory Battle for Azeroth was really cool, and it has not at all built the way I wanted it to. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely not, at least in my opinion, equal in quality to previous content.
Well, it has the every other expansion curse, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's sort of
vanilla
inevitable.
was. It seems to be, doesn't it? I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but it seems to be that way. Like Cataclysm was Garbo, and then Mist was amazing, and then Warlords was Garbo, and then Legion was amazing, and now Battle for Azeroth. It's improving, but it's certainly not, of the same quality as Legion before it.
Right. And actually, covering that, people heavily criticize Cataclysm for being Garbo, but with Classic and maybe recreating a parallel universe, you could fix that, right?
Well, exactly.
All the failings of past expansions. Mists of Pandaria, we had Siege of Orgrimmar for about a year before they came up with the next expansion.
Over a year.
Yeah, they could just change
13
that.
months.
Yeah.
Oh. And I know you can't see me, but I'm nodding my head emphatically at my computer screen right now. Yes, please, Blizzard. I'm positive that you are listening to this itty bitty tiny podcast, so do it.
Yeah. No, I just there's some things that if they change it, it would be a huge coin flip. But other things that it could change for easily the better. Like there's not even a question.
Do you think there's room in the market for for the MMO genre to support this kind of undertaking? Because what we're talking about right now is another 15-year undertaking.
I actually think it's conceivably less, because if they still base the Burning Crusade in Outland, then they don't have to rebuild all those assets. So it would.
Well, they would though, because they changed their file type in OG. What is it? Was it Cataclysm?
Yeah, but
I think so.
They still have those files.
But they'd need to find a way to convert them over to a file that the current game can read.
But the current game
right?
isn't the current Classic released in, because they had to rebuild it.
Yeah, they had to rebuild it, but I don't think they rebuilt it with the old files. I think they rebuilt the entire old game with the new file system.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I don't know. It's possible that they might not be able to reuse anything. Whatever.
in a perfect world, yeah, you're absolutely right. They'd be able to recycle a lot of their old assets, especially like character models and possibly locations. Might have to tweak some zone stuff, but
and tweet it a little bit.
And tweet it, yeah, exactly. I'm already in my outro here, talking about the tweeter.
Oh, in 5 days, the Blizzard stock went from 50 points to 55 points.
All right. That's a what is that? A 10% increase?
What day did Classic come out?
On the 27th of August.
Okay, so on the 27th, it was 51 points. And if I go to here, no. Oh, and yeah, now it's 55 points.
Still,
and it's
a
projected.
4-point jump is.
It's projected to just keep going up too.
Yeah, a 4-point jump is fantastic. It's really hard to see. Even a 10% growth in that amount of time is unheard of on Wall Street, unless you're have a really volatile stock. But a big company like Activision Blizzard isn't exactly a volatile stock.
Well, I'm not sure how much I've gone into depth about this before, but this time, October 1st of last year, their stock was 83 points. And now it's 50. And it dropped down at their stupid BlizzCon event when they announced Diablo Immortal, which I agree. They deserve to lose all the points for that bogus announcement. That actively makes me angry.
Don't you have a phone?
That makes me so angry. So I'm just going to skim right past that nonsense. And yeah, and so it dropped down to 40 points, and then it spiked between 40 or 50 points and 40 points for the next year, and now we have finally seen it advance beyond 50 points, and that's I'm not at all invested in Blizzard, but the looking at stocks really allows you to evaluate how well they're doing in the business side of the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I agree. I'm not an investor myself either, but I do certainly want to see Blizzard do well. I want to see them continue to make great games, and I want to see them stay true to the original, I guess, the soul of what Mike Morhaime was doing there, which is just, gameplay first and make fantastic games that they themselves would want to play, and that's what I want. That's what I've always wanted. It's what I continue to want from Blizzard.
They're also launching Overwatch for the Switch, which is going to help.
And maybe an unannounced project at this BlizzCon as well. I'm not sure about that one, but it'll be a big BlizzCon anyways, because they're gonna have probably most likely Diablo 4.
If they don't, they will just destroy themselves.
Something in the Overwatch universe, whether that's Overwatch 2 or something else. Maybe they're going to talk about Talon instead of Overwatch, who knows. So they're going to launch that. We can expect a new WoW expansion announcement. Of course, a new Hearthstone expansion announcement. Probably another couple of heroes from Heroes of the Storm, unless there's something else.
Can we expect a new WoW expansion announcement?
I believe so. Yeah, because we didn't get one last year. They usually go every other year.
What? Battle for Azeroth released August 14 last year.
Yeah, but it wasn't... Was it?
Yeah.
Is it only that? Oh, August 14th of 18. So I expect to see...
And then Legion released in
2016. So we wouldn't have gotten an expansion announcement in November of last year. So we'll get one this year. I'm pretty sure we'll get an expansion announcement this year. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am.
I'm not doubting you. I'm just trying to figure out the timeline here. I haven't. Can you buy the virtual ticket yet?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I always joked to myself the first year I physically go to BlizzCon will be like its last BlizzCon. When nobody cares anymore.
Well, I mean, your tickets now are getting to be pretty obscene. What are they up to, like $280 or something? But then your flight to get down to Anaheim is going to be probably $800 each way.
Well, see, here's the thing. If I advance high enough in my company, we always have meetings in Los Angeles. So I just fly down there, go to BlizzCon on the weekend. It's good. Get a free flight, man.
Totally plan, yeah. Some like puppeteer marionette your way into having a meeting in Anaheim on, the day before.
That's the whole point I got this job.
All right.
Well, that about does it for today. Daniel, the socials?
Yeah, all right. Well,
you just went with it.
Right on. If you are consuming our content and you like what we're doing, you can find more of us at youtube.com/TLDR podcast. If you have a question or a comment, you can drop us a line at podcast TLDR on Twitter. That's podcast without the T. And finally, you can email us at tldrpodcast@gmail.com. I had a lot of fun today, Jeff, talking about WoW Classic. I am really looking forward to the future of WoW, and I hope that at this coming BlizzCon, we get to see what's coming, what's new for WoW Classic, what their plans are going forward. How about you?
In case anybody's actually confused about our Twitter handle, it's just podcast and TLDR pushed together. They share the T in the middle. I know it could be confusing sometimes. Daniel is very hard to understand. But yeah, I think going forward with the BlizzCons and the Blizz Fests and the Blizzoramas are going to be great. I don't know what to expect. I haven't thought about it too much, but I mean, obviously it's coming up in 2 months, so I should be prepared for something.
Hashtag hype.
Whoa. Easy.
Yeah, so that happened.
I don't hashtag, so I'm like a vegetarian. I just don't hashtag.
I don't know what that has to do with vegetarianism, but
well, they don't eat meat. I don't hashtag. It's just it's a lifestyle choice, and it's kind of ethical.
All right. Well,
that's not offensive. That. My sister-in-law is a vegetarian. I get it. I have a black friend. I'm not racist.
You're woke, man.
I'm hashtag woke.
You just did it. You heard it here first, folks.
Me too.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Jeff. And this has been a great episode. This has been the TLDR podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week.
See you later. You ended it right away. You really wanted to end it, didn't you?
Well, it was dragging on.
Oh, I had so many other jokes planned.
Well, go ahead and throw them in the the ending.
Knock knock.
Just say them to. Who's there?
Why did the pigeon cross the road? No, I did it wrong. Forget the knock knock. Why did the pigeon cross the road? The chicken.
It would be nice if it would happen.
I'm dreaming in Technicolor. I don't know what that means.
I think that came from like early television sales when it was like, we're a color TV. We have gray, not gray and green. And then when they released like the full color spectrum, they're like, oh, Technicolor.
Isn't there like a Jesus's Technicolor Dreamcoat or something like that? What is that? What? I'm the worst person in history.
That was when they were coming out with the gramophone.
What? For grandmothers? Okay, that's the worst joke on the planet. Let's just cut that out. No, don't mention it.
Don't cut it out. No, don't you cut it out. That belongs in there. It can't all be me looking like a fool. I think we did. What did you have? Did you have anything left? That's the end of my notes here.
I do. I just have to find it again.
Are you Google searching?
I'm talking really slowly, so I can't find it. Change that tune.
You sound like Caboose.
Kittens with spikes on them!
And that makes me angry!
Well, no.
Or you
are just a squeamish little fool.
What is that voice?
I can't remember how he did it. Like game genres? Sure.
What are we going to talk about next week?
Oh! Did you hear me?
Oh,
you did. I was... What?
Nothing. Keep going. This is great.